Hey, this is Tony. I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad to be here. We're back once again, and I just wanted to tell you about an experiment that I did. But went on lots of hikes, and I'd see raspberries growing up by the rivers in any place that had a lot of moisture. So I thought I might be able to grow some of those, even though there's not very much rain around here. 9 inches per year is what we get. But maybe I can make use of the house, where the house is going to have water runoff in the summer and in the winter, because it's going to freeze over. There's going to get ice crystals on there. Those are going to melt, and they're going to run off the side of the roof. And so I planted the raspberries right there along the edges. It worked out phenomenally. Anywhere where the raspberries got that extra needed water, they just thrived and flourished and just grow like weeds. And that's what I want. As long as I can get to them and I can control them well enough where I'm putting them back, where I can reach my hands in there without getting too many thorns. So I went ahead and did that, and after a couple of years they started breaking out and giving me a pretty good yield. So this yield's been better than ever. They've got better rain than ever too, because I installed a gutter which allowed the water to run off right where they are. So they were very prolific, and right at the end of the season they sprouted a whole lot of buds. Say like one cane, one stalk would produce 30 raspberries, perhaps, maybe 20, 30, 40, 50 raspberries, depending upon the cane. And I really didn't want those raspberry plants to go to waste whenever it froze in the fall flash freeze. It happens every so often. Sometimes it happens really badly, and then we get a warmer couple of weeks, sometimes, or maybe it just gets really cold. Summers are great out here, winters are pretty cold out here. So the growing season is really short here, and if you're like me, you want to get the most out of all the days that are available for those plants to thrive. So come October, there's going to be a flash freeze. I thought, okay, I'm going to go out there and cover up the raspberry plants. I started doing that, and I broke one of the canes at the end, and it was just tragic. I'm sitting there looking at this broken branch and going, this has 35 raspberries on it. These are just like gold, and here I can't do anything with them. But I'm like, wait a minute, can I put these in a flower pot just like flower would grow, except instead of the flower growing, the raspberry is gonna go. And I didn't know how big the raspberry would get, or if they would grow at all, if they would just dry out, stay the same size they were, dry out, fall off, not be productive or whatever. I wasn't sure. So I put that into a vase, filled up with water, and just let it go. Of course, we went through the 27 degrees. Everything else in the garden just completely froze. It looked like somebody took a blowtorch and just wiped out everything. The tomato plants, squash plants, everything. They just were just flat as pancakes out there. Anyway, the raspberry plants, they're pretty rugged, so they lasted even through the 27 degrees. But the one on the inside, it started producing raspberries. And I thought, wow, this is just incredible. Is it just going to do this a little bit or what? Well, I had a lot of canes outside that were full of raspberries, like I said. So I said, well, since it's working on one, I'm going to cut a few more and put those into these flower vases also, fill them up with water and just let them go. Well, it was interesting to see how they would develop. Even little sprouts that I thought would not develop very well, a lot of them did. And they went on for about 35 days. I was getting raspberries, and this is through the cold season where we were getting 30 degrees, 28, 30, 35. It would be like that, bumping around there for the last 35 days. And then we did get some cold days, like 17 degrees Fahrenheit and 14 degrees Fahrenheit. Anyway, my raspberry plants inside thrived. I would every few days just pick anything that was ripe, put them into a little bowl, and I thought that was absolutely phenomenal. That was the goal. It wasn't to just have these raspberries out here, watch them freeze, and then feel bad for them, feel bad for myself. It was to actually see the land out here produce something, which is really fun to do if you're into gardening. So you can see the experiments here that this is going on through the days. And after a raspberry would dry, you pick the raspberry off. It has this really big area where the raspberry came from. Well, it's open to drying out, and so that would just kind of dry out the stem. The stem's really small and it would just turn brown. But the other raspberries would just, it was like they would just turn on and over and over they would just get bigger and sometimes get pretty decent. Anything out in Wyoming that you can get to grow is decent. So doing this was just phenomenal to me. I loved it. After about 40 days, the leaves themselves just flat out dried out, and it was hopeless to think that anything else would happen with whatever sprouts were left. But I highly recommend this. I'm definitely going to do this next year. And also, I had heard that if you cut them back, then you have these raspberry canes grew up to 8 feet tall. So if you cut a couple feet off, it will allow more raspberries to grow on the 6 feet, let's say, that are left next year. So I'm really optimistic about what will happen there, and I'm really optimistic next year about getting a whole lot more raspberries. But hopefully this helps you out, helps you to see that, yeah, even though you might have a short growing season, you can actually extend that a little bit, and raspberries are a plant that is a plant and a fruit that is compatible with just bring it inside, get it out of the ice and the snow. And of course I went out there to the other plants. There's plenty of them outside, because I thought, okay, that would be the best if they could just make it through, but they absolutely did not grow the fruit. Anything that's good for me and I can pass on, I just want to teach you, and of course you guys are always teaching me, so I thank you for that. Just comment, share, thumbs up, and have a great time living life, because God has given us a lot of things to explore. So wish you the best, and I'll see you next time.